homes and 10% had no priority at all.
Like I said, these are kind of being presented in the order they were asked as well.
Yes, they are. Yep.
You kind of see that there's a little bit of fatigue.
Yeah, we started to drop off some of the responses later in the survey. The priority for housing development, this were the written responses. Again, we tried to consolidate them. So even though they had the option to say, you know, what are your concerns around housing, they wrote things that just you see over and over. You know, concerned with water supply, again, keeping up with county rural, concerned with the master plan, the number of acres per house, concerned with housing developments were the top 4 in that category. Economic development, excuse me. We asked questions about what kind of priorities would they like to see in economic development from the county. The biggest number here, of course, is agriculture. Everybody wants to continue to see agriculture as a priority for economic development. The next one, it was retail shopping at 25%. Lots of 323 written responses here. Again, they just, the respondents harped on the same things, I think, repeated the same things over and over in each opportunity text box that they were able to put in. You see roads again, you see water again. Even though we're talking about economic development, the same issues carry through. So there may be a better way to structure that survey to target those responses to the topic question. Summary analysis. So here's where we took a look at the major areas of concern. I've mentioned them almost all already. Road and bridge, again, is a condition of county roads. And, you know, we've got guys out there working, losing sleep over that every night. So we're going to continue to make that a priority. Communication, you know, we still have negative perception out there, and we want to undergo some communication planning and messaging to try to do a better job, and that ties very closely with transparency on what we're doing, how we plan, how we implement, and how we listen to our citizens. Okay, I did not do that. Water, water continues to be a one. Housing development, rural feel and values, and then business development also. This is my summary of the major concerns. The next slide, the last slide, is the conclusion and recommendation slide. So the survey itself, and we need to refine that survey for more detailed written response on the top 6 concerns. If we move this forward to next year, we also need to look at mail and surveys that cover better demographics. We should do this survey at least every 2 to 3 years, if not every year, and then based on the demographics of the county. We're going to incorporate some of this into the strategic plan, and that would be the organizational concerns, growth of services, communication, transparency into the plan. In the comprehensive plan, we're going to ensure an alignment between the key services, the issues of water and transportation into that comp plan that we just finished, but we're going to do regular updates to that too. So with that, that's the end of this presentation. Any questions? And thank you, Justin, for bringing me some water.
I think you should kind of struck it right. We have to ask for information. We know we don't have strongly valid things to devote resources to, but just knowing what the hot button issues aren't surprising. It's a good start to move forward on.
And the comment that Sam made about getting information out is interesting, because it was clear, of course, this was prior to our water study that we had done and some things like that, but we've been working very hard in getting good quality analytical data put together for the people. The problem is, of course, is a very low percentage of people actually read those things. So it's going to be up to us to figure out how to get people more in tune with what we're doing from a more aggressive analytical point of view.
Commissioner Thayer, you're exactly right. One of the things I want to do now that we've got the water study done, it was in work while we were doing the survey, is come up with some messaging around that water study that we try to do some of the highlights in the executive summary when we have that presentation here, but now to get that out to the citizens somehow on the fact that we do have good water supply, that we are concerned about that water supply. We'll continue to manage that water supply efficiently for the citizens of Edward County, that we have no plans to sell any water outside of the county. But that messaging is critical, and how we do that will figure out, will be determined, will show up next year if we do this survey, and hopefully with a better understanding of this, the citizens have a better understanding of our actual water supply in our aquifers.
And then there's one more layer to what you just said, because I agree with everything you said there, is that this survey, our comprehensive plan, and the complete rewrite of our rules, regulations, and subdivision regulations is in progress, and we're probably about a month away or so from having that done. But we're layering in some of the information that we got from this and that type of thing. And I'm using water as an example, is that we do have enough water for what the Colorado demographic says what our growth will be. However, there's also the question of what's the right thing to do. The right thing to do is, in our regulations as we rewrite them, is have conservation items encouraged in there, reuse items included in there, comments about export of water and non-export. All of these different things will be addressed, included, or at least alluded to in some way or another with respect to this update of our regulations. And I'm really anxious to see how this draft comes out on the regulations, because it will affect the county for at least a decade and maybe two.
At some point here, I'd kind of like to see the full text comments. There's quite a few that weren't too happy with us, and that's not surprising. We're elected to make decisions. And if all the decisions were obvious or everybody agreed, there wouldn't be a reason to have anybody up here having to make calls like that. We saw earlier this morning, clearly not everything we do is popular, but I'd like to see what the specifics are, not defensively, more proactively. I think we work very hard to explain our decision-making process and to be very public about how things happen. I know sometimes folks won't accept what's written or what is said is what is actually meant. But again, I just, with the town halls, our monthly letters in the Prairie Times, emails, we'll do more if we have to, if we can. But I think we've been moving in the right direction for a year now. It's never going to be perfect. We don't have the resources to make everybody happy.
I'll make those comments now.
Public comment. On the next item. Our budget development.
So, the county continues to move forward with budget development. We are on schedule and track. In order to get our 2019 budget completed, we are sent out budget packets, which has last year's actuals and year-to-date information, as well as the commissioner's budget goals and the strategic objectives that are going to be part of the strategic plan. Went out to every department, and they are developing their budgets. We've got most of those in. We're starting to compile that data. We've got a few stragglers, but there are some questions And I'm meeting with those guys one-on-one to kind of clarify those questions and some of that direction, and we'll get those, the rest of those things compiled. What we've normally done in the past, is before the middle of July, sit down with that compiled budget and start to go through and analyze it. We will also have the mid-year financials done around that 9th of July. So I may be delayed a little bit in that first sit down. I know that several of the departments are requesting additional personnel. Before I bring that to you guys with a double-digit personnel increase, I want to start talking about how we prioritize that internally with my departments before we bring that to you. So there's a little bit more work to do on my side this year than I think. Of course, I wasn't here last year, but the way that I like to do the budget is have a little better understanding of everything that's going into it before we sit down and you guys start asking the tough questions about what we need to do moving forward with 2019. I think having that mid-year financial report and available to all my directors and the elected officials is going to also be extremely valuable in those discussions. So we need to close June out before we really take the next step in the budget process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just ask as they're coming forward, if you can kind of push to request balance against the goals we set.
Yep.
Versus, I know more is better.
Public comment on the budget. We can hear more about it. Next one, we have a similar use of gasoline filling facility. It's an IGA, it's similar.
Yes, sir. We have had
Here's
a
our tank.
yes, sir. We have had a request from the town of Simla to approve an IGA that's the exact same that we have with the town of Kiowa. The town of Kiowa uses our fuel tanks here. They have access to fuel 24/7 in order to, and then they each have their own gas card, and so each time they fill up off of our tanks, it records that fuel, and then we bill the town of Kiowa. Simla's asking for the same thing. They're not expecting to run trucks up here every day and fill up off of us. It's going to be more on a case-by-case basis. But they have asked for that same courtesy, and so this IGA has been reviewed by myself and the county attorney. It's the exact same one we have in Kiowa. We can have discussion today, but we are ready to move this forward. If you guys want to approve it, we're okay on this side.
It's cost neutral to
Yes.
us.
It is, it's a convenience.
We build municipalities monthly, so it's pretty easy.
No?
I
You have
didn't
any
get-
public comment? No?
Feedback positive or negative. I think it's pretty straightforward.
So with that, since we have that, since we have any public comment, we can have a motion to move that to action.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move that we take item number 4, similar use of gasoline filling facility IGA to action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Since we have that on the table now, I guess, for one more time, any discussion on our IGA? None? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the similar use of gasoline filling facility, IGA, as presented. So we adopt it as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On to the next one, records retention.
Come up there. Hello again, Commissioners. Justin Boston, Director of Administration. As you're aware, we obviously had a study session after the last BOCC meeting where we discussed quite a bit of the detail regarding the changes that needed to be made to the records retention policy the way it was currently written. From those changes, I'm still in the process of just incorporating the changes that need to be made. I've also reached out to the Colorado archivist with a few questions, and they have returned a call, but it was in a voicemail, so I need to reach back to them again. The questions that we're looking at, just on kind of standards, what they see across other counties and kind of what we're trying to incorporate within our policy. So just a few questions that I'd like to see answers on before we really draft language different within the policy. The study sessions seem to be pretty useful, and we appreciate the time to do that. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have a new final draft of the records retention policy, because this is sort of frustrating. So,
Okay,
okay.
we'll get there. Any comment? No?
Okay, thanks for plugging along.
Yeah. Any discussion on the records retention policy? We'll continue. All right, on to the next item. I believe we were looking at, Jerry, this is your MOU. correct?
Good morning, Commissioners. Jerry Spear, Director of Health and Human Services. What you have before you is this, well, it's state fiscal year 19 through state fiscal year 21 Colorado Works, aka TANF, and the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program, MOU. This is an agreement between the county and the State Department of Human Services on how we operate our programs. This is required, so we can operate our programs and we can receive funding that comes down from the state and federal government. There's been negotiation over the past year and a half between the counties and the state to make sure that everyone is okay with the MOU and how it reads and the understanding and the differentiation of primarily some of the sticking points were about how counties potentially might be sanctioned for some of the performance issues. And I know Will County is really taking the lead on this. But now what you have before you is the draft, the MOU that basically both the counties and the state felt comfortable with and did not feel like it was overly punitive potentially to the counties. So, and it asked to have this approved by June 30th.
It shows your date, your term.
Yes.
So that in that it needs to be approved by June 30th, and this is the last BOCC meeting before June 30th, we need to, I suppose we need to move this from a discussion item to an action item, is that what you're suggesting?
It would be helpful.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we move item 6, Colorado Works TANF and CCCAP MOU to the action agenda.
Second.
Okay, we didn't ask for public comment on that. Is there any public comment on our MOU? No? Okay. So we move to the next item, all in favor?
You need that motion.
Diane made a motion to amend.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and, I move that we adopt the MOU, Colorado Works, TANF, and CCCAP, and MOU, that we adopted on this page. That was the least clean motion that we
Nice.
I move that we adopted as presented.
Second.
Second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
You can get the next item, you have policies. What's your question?
There are 11 policies that are all required by the State Department for us to operate our Colorado Works, aka TANF program. And these are updated as needed, and we've been in process for a while, following a program review a couple of years ago to, first we have to make sure that the state is okay with the wording. And then we go ahead and do the final policy approval and adoption by the board. Again, these will come back every once in a while as the program changes, regulation changes, and rule changes come about. So it won't be the final, but it's the final for now, so we can operate our programs. Again, this is about Basically, this is how we have to be in compliance so we can pull down state and federal dollar reimbursement. Since just a couple of things on the conflict of interest / nepotism and the confidential case processing policies. These are required policies by the TANF program that we have to have, but we use it for all of our staff. So it covers all of the programs. We try to incorporate it for all programs.
So is there a June 30th deadline on this also?
There's not a deadline.
Okay, and this isn't a requirement to approve, or is this just a presentation?
They will need to be approved by you,
Okay.
yes, at some point, when you're comfortable, yes.
Have you done some research with comparing these to our employee handbook?
Yes, like I say, before we even put these together, Mr. Greer had looked through them when we actually initially wrote them, and then Diana Hyatt also reviewed them since our last meeting to make sure that there was no conflicts with our employee handbooks.
And since they are pretty substantial, I haven't read through them, I think they're good, but I'd like to maybe put them on consent, so they can go to the public one last time.
Sure, you bet.
We'll just-
You
If
know,
we don't get any feedback, we'll just take them on consent
Perfect.
for the next.
Hopefully there aren't any errors. We've gone cross-eyed after reading them through so many times. I think you can miss them. You can miss some, you know, and then if you don't put it just in the correct order, it changes the actual meaning of each of these policies. So it does get very complicated, but these will be the policies that we use. Say if there are any, I brought our program manager that gets to watch over this, Darcy Golding, just in case you had any specific questions. But for us to implement the program, for us to work with clients, if there are any objections by the clients to say we didn't that we did not do our end of it, this is our guidelines. And basically, the Bible is more than guidelines. It's pretty, like you said, it's pretty in depth and pretty detailed. So, but those are required by the state. So, okay.
So we look to put those on consent.
You don't need a motion or anything.
I don't know.
Okay.
Alex, I don't believe we need a motion. We need a motion to do good. Okay, good. All right. That takes care of all the discussion items. All right, on the action items, we get two. For minutes. Okay, good.
We're back to
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the minutes as for the May 23rd, 2018 BOCC meeting. Adopted was presented and dispensed with reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of June 13th, 2018 as presented and dispense with the reading of those minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, on the board plan. Have a number of things there.
Yeah, Commissioner, so far what we have, of course, are the approval of today's minutes. We have the draft fee schedule policy that County Manager Albrecht discussed. Have an update on the budget, update on GIS, strategic plan update, the record retention policy, final document, and also acceptance for the 2017 audit will be taking place at that time. Also point out future hearings. We have tomorrow, the Board of Adjustments will convene here at 9 a.m. That's what I have. Of course, we'll have the TANF policies on consent.
And then we got the work session with the auditor.
Work session with the auditor tomorrow at 10:15, right? Okay. Anything else? Yes, yeah.
For the Board of Adjustments, is there just a single case you're looking at?
For tomorrow, there's 3, 9, 9:30, and 10.
Okay. All right, well, if that takes care of that, then can we recess until 1? And then we'll continue the land hearings at that time. Thank you, folks.